Welcome back to Token Launch Masterclass. This is episode 6, and we're calling this one Beyond the Code, Building a Crypto-Native A-Team that VCs Trust. Look, I've sat through hundreds of pitches. I've seen brilliant, world-changing ideas presented on a silver platter, and I've seen most of them die. And let me be perfectly clear, investors, the ones with real skin in the game, they don't bet on the horse. They bet on the jockey. They bet on the team that's going to ride that horse through hell and high water. So you have to ask yourself a hard question, and I want you to be honest. Is your founding team just a collection of shiny resumes from Google and Goldman? Or is it a crypto-native force multiplier that an investor would be an absolute fool to ignore? That's what we're digging into today. Okay, let's talk team composition. You've probably heard of the classic Hacker-Hustler-Hipster Triad from the Web 2 world. It's a useful frame, but for crypto, I find it works better when you give it a native upgrade. Your hacker isn't just a coder. They're the protocol architect. What I look for is someone obsessed with security and decentralization above all else. They aren't just building an app. They're building trustless infrastructure. Your hustler becomes the ecosystem and growth lead. Their focus isn't traditional sales. I want to see a mastery of tokenomics and community building. They're not trying to acquire customers. They're trying to bootstrap a microeconomy. And the hipster? They're your UX and narrative weaver. In a world of complexity, their job is to make your project intuitive and tell a powerful story around it. They build the bridge for mass adoption. When I see this reimagined triad, I know a team gets it. But that triad, even the Web 3 version, is missing a critical piece. What I look for is what I call the fourth co-founder, the tokenomist. Now, don't mistake this for a chief financial officer. This isn't someone who just manages a treasury. This is a specialist in game theory, in mechanism design, and in behavioral economics. Their entire world is architecting a sustainable token model. They're the ones sweating the details on token utility, the emission schedule, staking rewards, and governance rights. When I see a dedicated tokenomist on a founding team, it's a massive green flag. It tells me the team is thinking deeply about creating a durable living economy, not just a speculative asset. And that is an element I and every other VC will scrutinize relentlessly. All right, let's touch on the advisory board. I see so many decks where the advisor slide looks like a who's who of crypto Twitter. It's tempting to just collect logos. I get it. But what I do, and what any experienced VC does, is immediately try to figure out if it's just signal, or if there's real substance there. Honestly, just listing a big name without context can be a red flag. What I like to see is a clear story. Don't just show me a name. Show me the void they fill on your team. Maybe you have someone who has already navigated the exact regulatory minefields you're facing. Or someone who literally wrote the playbook on scaling a protocol to 1 billion in TVL. The key is proving their involvement. When you can say our advisor isn't just a name, they spend 2 hours a week with our dev team and have already introduced us to 3 key liquidity partners. That's when an advisor becomes a massive asset instead of just a logo. Now let's talk about a term you'll hear constantly, builder DNA. What does that actually mean to an investor? It's much deeper than just writing good code. What I'm looking for is a history of shipping. Can I see projects you've pushed live? Even small ones? It's about demonstrating that you know how to get from an idea to a finished product. But it goes even further in Web 3. I'm going to look for your on-chain resume. What I do is check GitHub for open source contributions. I check governance forums to see if you're actively participating in DAOs that matter. I might even look at your Etherscan history. It's not about being nosy. It's about verifying genuine long-term commitment to this ecosystem. Are you a tourist just here for the bull run? Or are you a citizen helping to build the infrastructure? That's founder market fit, and it's non-negotiable. Just as there are green flags, there are some team compositions that I find are immediate deal breakers. What I see most often is the brilliant but isolated solo founder. The vision might be pure, but the risk is just too concentrated. Crypto is a team sport. Another one is the all-tech team. I see a group of genius coders, but no one focused on growth, community, or narrative. It's a lab experiment, not a business. I'm also very wary of the mercenary team, the ones you can tell are just chasing the latest hype narrative with no deep passion for the problem. Conviction is hard to fake. And finally, something I check early is a heavily unbalanced equity split. When I see co-founders with a 90-10 divide, it doesn't signal a strong leader to me. It signals a massive conflict waiting to happen. Now, let's zoom in on the pitch deck, specifically that critical team slide. What I see most of the time is essentially a gallery of logos, a list of past employers. Frankly, it tells me almost nothing. What I look for, what actually builds my confidence, is a narrative. For every single person on that slide, you have to connect the dots for the investor. Don't just tell me your CTO came from a top crypto exchange. Tell me she led the team that architected their new Layer 2 scaling solution, which is directly relevant to the core problem your protocol is solving. Suddenly, it's not a resume item, it's evidence. Each bio needs to be a concise story that answers one question. Why is this person's specific past experience the perfect weapon to solve this project's unique challenges? That's how you turn a list of names into a statement of inevitable success. Here's something that trips up a lot of teams coming from the traditional tech world. They treat community as a marketing function, something you hire for after the product is built. What I like to see is a complete mindset shift. In crypto, the community isn't part of the product. It is the product. Your protocol's ultimate value is a direct function of the developers and users who build on it, use it, and govern it. So when I'm looking at a deck and I see a developer relations lead and a community manager listed as part of the core early team, that's a massive leading indicator for me. It tells me the founders understand how to build a real defensible moat in Web3. That moat isn't code. It's a passionate, engaged user base that can't be forked. So where do you actually find these crypto-native A players? If your first instinct is to open up LinkedIn, I'd suggest you pause. What I do is go native. You'll find that your next protocol architect isn't polishing their resume. They're debating EIPs in a highly technical Discord server. Or they're in the middle of a 48-hour build at an ETH Global hackathon. I spend a lot of time just reading through DAO governance forums. The people making the most insightful proposals, those are your future strategy leads. But finding them is only half the battle. To attract them, what I've seen work best isn't just a big cash offer. Lead with the mission. Present them with a technical challenge that's genuinely hard and interesting. And most importantly, offer meaningful ownership. The best talent isn't looking for a job. They're looking to be part of building the future, and they want real skin in the game. Let me walk you through a quick scenario I see play out all the time. Imagine two pitch decks land on my desk. First is Team Genius. They have a world-class cryptographer, and their core technical concept is genuinely groundbreaking, maybe 5% more novel than anything else out there. But that's all they have. No one is focused on business, no one on community. Then I open the deck for Team Future. Their tech is still very strong, but what I like to see is that they also have a strong technical core, a dedicated tokenomist obsessing over the economic model, and a community lead who is already building an engaged user base. Who gets the investment? What I do is back Team Future 10 times out of 10, because Team Genius is building a science project. Team Future is building a business. An incredible engine is useless if you don't have a team building the rest of the car, a map for where to go, and a plan to convince people to get in and drive. All right, let's bring this all into focus. If there's one thing to burn into your memory from today, it's that ideas are everywhere, but execution is everything. What I'm really looking for, what separates the pitches I fund from the ones I pass on, comes down to a few core things. First, a deep understanding that I'm investing in people, not just a PDF. Second, I like to see that you've built a balanced crypto-native team with essential roles filled, especially the tokenomist. And finally, you've got to prove that builder DNA through real tangible action. So let's assume you've done that. You've assembled your crypto A team. Now, how do you put a number on your vision? Join us next time for episode 7, Valuation Jiu-Jitsu, How to Justify Your Worth in a Pre-Product World.